Hey, real estate investors and entrepreneurs. I am so excited to share with you today the number one strategy that we use to build net worth. So if you're looking to build net worth, what you need to do is save money on taxes. And if you're looking to save money on taxes, I have our number one strategy that's used by over 2,000 real estate investors and entrepreneurs all over the country. And I'm going to share with you all the details right now. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. So if you guys don't know about it, this is the solo 401k, and it is the biggest tax saver. And I have to tell you guys that it is the number one way that we at Royal Legal Solutions are helping clients build their net worth. And if you don't know me, my name is Scott Royal Smith. I'm an attorney as well as entrepreneur and real estate investor, and I built a company called Royal Legal Solutions. It's a law firm. We are a one-stop shop for everything tax savings, asset protection, and estate planning, and we help over 2,000 clients protect over $2 billion in assets, and we help people in all 50 states. And we've been doing it for over the last 5 years with a staff of about 25 people. So let me tell you about the solo 401k and how it's going to be able to amplify your net worth and be able to save you a ton on taxes. So the key features of the solo 401k is that it can protect up to $56,000 plus each year in annual contributions, and that goes up year over year. It also allows you to manage your retirement funds yourself. So instead of just taking your funds and dumping it randomly into the market or having somebody else manage it for you, you can actually manage your funds. You can buy assets like real estate. You can make investments with it. You can loan money out. You get to control your own retirement funds to amplify your retirement funds with your own efforts. You can invest in almost anything you want. There's very few exclusions to what you can invest in. And so you can really think about what are the possibilities that you can do with growing your net worth with pre-tax dollars. When you have that much more capital because it hasn't been taxed, you can grow that net worth faster. And then you can establish an addition to your existing 401k with side of your company. So if your company that you work for inside of your W-2 job has a 401k, guess what? The restrictions that apply to you are that dollar limit, the $56,000 plus dollar limit. So if you're only having $25,000 go into that account, guess what? You have all of that extra that you can put into a retirement account that you establish with your other income, whether it's your rental income or your side hustle income or whatever the case may be there. So there's some common myths around the solo 401k that I want to dispel for you right now. The first one is that you can't have more than one retirement account. A lot of people think like, well, I have my W-2 job and that's my retirement account there, then I can't have another retirement account. Nope, totally wrong. You can have an independent retirement account outside of your W-2 job if that's what's holding you back from establishing your retirement account. Some people think like, hey, I won't be able to invest my money. And then I don't want to do retirement accounts because now my money's all locked up inside of my retirement account. Totally wrong. You can invest that money and build your net worth using the solo 401k and handle it all yourself without having to go through a custodian or any other third party. A lot of people think like, well, if I divert funds into my solo 401k, this is going to slow me down in terms of reaching financial freedom. And that's totally wrong, because when you're looking at financial freedom, what you're also looking at as your total net worth. And with the solo 401k, you can actually grow those tax-free dollars, and then you can actually loan yourself up to half of those tax-free dollars for you to use for whatever you want. And you get 5 years to repay it, and then you pay interest, but your interest goes back to your own retirement account. So you essentially pay interest to yourself. So when you have more cash, you can afford to make better investments to grow your net worth over time. And guess what? The money that's inside that 401k, you can loan to yourself whenever that awesome deal comes up and you need the cash. No worries. You can still tap inside of your 401k account and not have any penalties with it. Some people think, I don't have enough money to plan for retirement. And let me tell you guys, retirement and wealth building is not about absolutes. It's a pathway, it's a journey, and it's about taking the right steps that get you there eventually, right? Nobody can tell you exactly what your path to financial freedom is going to look like. But what we can do is say, what are the best practices that we've seen from over 2,000 real estate investors and entrepreneurs with people that can start small and start doing the right things, building the right habits and getting those habits, those pathways, those ways of thinking, the mindset correct, and then build that with like Lego blocks over time is how you get to the net worth. Because guess what? Nobody just snaps their fingers and automatically gets there. And some people also think, I'm too young to think about retirement. You might be pretty young right now, and you might be thinking, hey, retirement is really far way off. But you have to remember is that when you're looking at retirement accounts and you're looking at building wealth with tax-free dollars, as we're going to show later on, the earlier that you start, the bigger the compound is on the money that you're able to put in. And remember, the more you can compound this money over time, the more money you actually can loan yourself out of your solo 401k, of your retirement account, to be able to use for other purposes. And that money grew a lot faster because you had more dollars, because guess what? You didn't lose a third of it to taxes right off the top. You're investing with all of your money, not just part of your money. So the top benefits that we're looking for here, guys, is this is going to help you grow your net worth faster because you can make tax-free or tax-deferred investments, tax-deferred until your retirement age. You can control all of these investments out like a custodian. So you don't have to pay any third party to exercise any control. You can sign contracts yourself. You can enter into deals. You can move very quickly through the transactions that you want to. You can also roll over all of your previous retirement accounts into your own retirement account. So if you have like dangling other 401k accounts and IRA accounts from other companies that you had worked for in the past, let's roll all those together inside of one solo 401k that you can personally control and manage, and all of your money is one place. And that's how you can really start to flex some of those investment muscles. And guys, this is the easiest thing to create and manage when you're working with a qualified and professional team, especially a law firm, because you can not only create it, but we can help advise you. Something that nobody else in this space is able to do is actually give you legal advice on what things you can and cannot do. So there's no better way to be able to maximize your returns on the investments that you can make than knowing, hey, are these risks, are these the types of investments can I really get into? Because guess what? Everybody else is only thinking about the mainstream, right? And when you have actual legal advice, you can look off the mainstream, and that's where the real opportunities lie. And so you might consider that as a mix of the kinds of things that you want to get into if you want to be an elite investor growing your net worth as quickly as possible. So the next questions that really come up is, do you need a solo 401k? And when we look at the solo 401k and we're looking at, is this appropriate for you? We're looking at a holistic picture. And this is what we call our freedom temple. When our freedom temple, we first focus on wealth creation because, hey, you got to have the money coming in. Next, we're focused on how to keep that money from the government. And that's where tax strategies come in. Next, we're focused on how to make sure we don't lose that money from lawsuits. This is where our 5 pillars of asset protection come in. Creating anonymity of your ownership of the assets, isolating your liability, separating all of your assets from one to the other. So that way, if there's ever a lawsuit against one asset, they can't go after any of the other assets. Isolating all of your activities between operating companies to hold all of your active operations in one company that has all the liability, and all of the asset holding in another company that doesn't see anybody, it doesn't do anything. It's like your vault. And then also insurance, because insurance is always our first line of defense. And then we're looking at how can we save time by doing all of our operations more efficiently now that we've protected all of our money above. And then we're looking at what's our legacy. What are we going to do with all of these assets after we're done using them? What is the impact that we want to leave on the world when we're gone? And lastly, whenever we are able to do all of the above correctly, we believe that this creates additional time and energy and space to really focus on your personal fulfillment. Now, when we look at our retirement plans, there's a number of different things we can do. Right now, we're just talking about the solo 401k, which is this $56,000 per year. But if you combine it with a self-directed IRA strategy, an HRA strategy, and maybe a 529 education plan for the kids, and maybe your real estate election, this is to be elect to be a real estate professional, your tax savings per person can go over $136,500 per year in very short order. And guys, guess what? On this number, if you're married, double it, right? That nobody should be paying all this money in taxes when all these vehicles are right here to be able to help save you money on those taxes. So let's just do a quick breakdown. So let's say you're making $20,000 to $40,000 per year in tax savings with a solo 401k. So let's just say you're not going to use a solo 401k and you have $56,000 in taxable income after your deductions. Okay, so what you're going to do first is you're going to end up paying a 32% tax rate. So that money comes off the top. You just lost $18,000. So that gives you $38,000 to invest, and we're going to assume that you can invest that money at reasonable rates at $3,800 a year in total amount that you're making off of that. Now, the money you just made off of that 10% per year, now you have to pay capital gains. So here's where the government comes in again and steals another $571 from you. That means your total net worth it just increased over the course from that year of $3,237. So now your total net worth that you started with was $56,000. After you invest it and you pay your taxes on it, at the end of year one, you'd have $41,317. Now, when we look at the issue using the solo 401k, when we have this same $56,000, you're not going to have any taxes on it from the government. So you have $56,000 left to invest instead of $38,000. When you invest that money, you're going to make $5,600 instead of $3,800. And that means your total net worth increase was $5,600 instead of $32,000. But here's the big difference. The total, I know you guys can't see this, but the total here that's at the end of this line is $61,600 when the total here was $41,317. So that's over a $20,000 difference and just being able to do the solo 401k, or a 50% return at the start and through year one, right? So you're talking about being able to have a 50% return immediately whenever you use the solo 401k strategy. It's unlike anything else. It all comes down to just being able to save money on taxes and to having the additional capital there. So let's just look at this over a 30-year period, guys. When you look at this over a 30-year period, if you had maxed out your $56,000 contribution, a $56,000 contribution each year over 30 years is going to give you over $10 million in retirement. You're going to have, and then if you look at a $10,000 contribution over the 30 years, a $10,000 contribution over 30 years gives you about $1.8 million in retirement. So if all you can put into your retirement is $10,000 a year and invest this money at a 10% interest rate, boom, you got it. Over the course of the 30 years, you're going to be a multi-millionaire and ready for your retirement at that point. Or if you're able to max it out, you're really living a cush lifestyle at that point. Great. Let's go here. Okay, so you can see here that this is that same graph, but just looking at the contribution. So you can see that when you have higher contribution limits, that this graph really starts to J-curve up, right? And that's because it's the power of the compound interest over time, year over year. And same thing is true here. This starts to move, but it's not nearly as big of a delta when you get into some of those later years. So really maxing out what you can do with your retirement accounts is really beneficial for you in a lot of ways. Okay, so let's look beyond just the solo 401k and let's talk about a little bit this overall plan that we have. So we have here, as I mentioned to you a little bit before, was your asset holding company. This is what you use to protect yourself from liability by holding all of your assets anonymously and then isolating each of the individual assets if they're real estate, so that way if there's a lawsuit against one asset, they can't go after any of the other ones. We use trusts in place in conjunction with the LLC protection to be able to ensure that you own all the assets anonymously, which is how we stop lawsuits before they start, because if it looks like you qualify for food stamps, guess what? People don't sue you. Then what we do is we have an operating company. This is typically an LLC that's owned by a trust because we believe you should own all of your companies anonymously. Why give anybody any information about you that could potentially help them in figuring out if you're somebody to sue or if they want to sue you? And underneath that's where we're able to establish the self-directed IRA, solo 401k, HSA, 529 plans. Everything can be established here inside of this operating company that takes in your money. And then everything is owned. Your asset holding company, your operating company is all owned by your living trust as part of your estate plan, and ultimately your other estate planning tools, which is your healthcare power of attorney, durable power of attorney, etc. If you want to know more information about that, we have a number of webinars and masterclasses that dive into each one of the areas of this chart, so you can really take the deep dive. Today, we've just really dug down into the solo 401k. So if you're interested in that, look at some of our other masterclasses, and and then that'll educate you on all of the details for all of the parts of that graph. So let's go into the owner's manual real quick. So if you have the solo 401k, here's the way it works. Remember we talked about the operating company on that prior chart? Well, the operating company is going to own a solo 401k. That solo 401k can have up to $56,000 plus attributed to it each year. Each year that number goes up. If you're married, you can double it. for the amount of income you can put into the solo 401k. And you can invest all of that money, or what some of our clients do is they'll invest 50% of it and then they'll loan the other half back to themselves. And that loan, it's all with tax-free dollars. They pay interest on it, but they're paying interest back to their own retirement account, and it's usually a 4 to 5% interest rate is pretty typical in those circumstances. So you can make the investments, and when you're figuring like, hey, I actually want this cash personally, great, make a loan to yourself. But you're making a loan with you for tax-free dollars, so you're actually going to have more money to be able to loan to yourself at that point. So when you're looking at the solo 401k, there's a couple of pro tips. So you might want to consider not taking your depreciation deductions off of your assets if you have room in your solo 401k, because your solo 401k can grow your wealth tax-free. So this is like the downside of taking depreciation, because if you take depreciation, it lowers your tax basis, which means in turn you're going to have higher capital gains at the sale of that asset. So what some of our clients are doing is switching to use a solo 401k to be able to lower the taxable amount that they have on their taxes instead of trying to depreciate their assets, because they know like, hey, if I take that depreciation, then later on I actually have to pay capital gains when I dispose of that asset. So cool. Well, I'll just use a solo 401k to be able to make those investments that I want to make, and so I don't have to worry about the depreciation one way or the other. Great. So some FAQ questions here, guys, is what can I invest in with the solo 401k? And you can just about invest in almost anything, including any security, as well as alternative investments like real estate, private investments, private loans, metals, tax lien, equities, just about anything you can do it. You can open a solo 401k very easily, having the right solo 401k plan documentation, the EIN, and the proper forms drafted. And then you can fund your solo 401k up to your annual contributions. And we can even help you establish a banking or brokerage accounts using that solo 401k, so that way you can then manage the money that's inside of your retirement accounts by accessing it directly through that bank and the proper banking accounts there. And we have relationships with that where you can establish all of your banking all online and be able to handle everything all in one place with extremely low costs, and I think in most cases it's actually free as long as you have a decent balance in there, which all of our clients do, because it's only a couple $1,000s. And what is the typical timeline to open up your self-directed IRA or your solo 401k? It usually only takes us about 2 to 3 weeks to get everything fully formed. Now the documentation and the drafting and the creation of it, great, that only takes an afternoon, right? But then it's actually being able to educate you on all of the aspects of it, open up the bank accounts, start doing those first transactions with it, do the rollovers from your existing retirement accounts and put those in a solo 401k. And that's what really takes that full timeline. And then from there, once you have the money in there, we're going to actually be able to give you legal advice on what investments you can make or not make, which nobody else is able to do, because we're unique in being a law firm and being able to do both of those things there. And then the maximum amount that you can loan yourself through the solo 401k, it's generally a loan about 50% of the amount invested into the account balance with a maximum loan amount. So at the time of this recording, the maximum loan amount was $50,000 to be able to loan yourself, one person at any given time. But that number is also increasing over time. So it's always going to be important to check to see, hey, what is the current status for this month or this year, because those regulations can always be changing. Great, guys. If you enjoyed today's presentation on the solo 401k and learned something from it, I hope that you found that was valuable. If you want to have a deeper relationship with us and get more of these materials and more tailored information particular to your situation, the best thing to do is to take the quiz that's on royallegalsolutions.com. That quiz gives us all the basic information that we need to be able to start sending you the information that we've seen from our clients to be the most powerful information, the most impactful to helping you grow your net worth and accomplish financial freedom. And all you have to do is go to royallegalsolutions.com right now and take that quiz.